again. Welcome back to the Dark Moon Podcast. I'm Kate Sylvanus, and today we're going to discuss Beyond the Social Veil, the natural retreat from social illusions. This was triggered in me by a meme. I like memes when they just sort of invoke thought, and how retreating from things that you've outgrown, basically. Social illusions. I don't want to play in those fields anymore, so I'm retreating from certain social circles and peoples, and it's feeling good. I'm just feeling like I've grown, and it's not that I still respect and appreciate them, I just don't need to hang around it so much. So beyond the social veil, well, we're going to explore I suppose currents beneath our everyday existence. And many of us feel but rarely articulate that growing sense of wanting to retreat from the buzzing hive of superficial social connections. Now, some of the things you have to do is duty, and if you're duty bound to sort of do family events and things like that. But other things, yeah, you get a choice. And I think a certain amount of my life I pursued social interactions because I thought I should be doing them. And if you find yourself at a gathering surrounded by people yet feeling profoundly alone, and it's like, why are you there? Have you noticed yourself becoming increasingly selective about who you spend time with? And it was like, yeah, I don't want to be around these people. What the heck am I doing here? It's the inexplicable urge to withdraw from social circles you once found fulfilling. Yes, so this is where I was, and I don't feel I'm alone. The awkwardness, and I can see the energies of the thing, and it's like we're just running through the motions. And our hyper-connective culture may suggest this retreat isn't necessarily a problem to be solved. It might be a sign of profound growth. I like to think of it anyway. So let's begin with a truth that's both uncomfortable and liberating. Much of our social world is constructed on layers of illusion. I don't mean this in a cynical way, but rather as an observation of how human societies function. We create shared narratives, norms, and performances that help navigate our relationships with each other. And it seems to be all a play. Now, you could argue that, the ADHD is the pattern recognition, and you can look at this and you think, well, it's all very superficial stuff. I think there's a time for it, though, where you have to make small talk, and you have to sort of, and ask the question like, oh, what do you do for a living? And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll answer that question, but yeah, all right. Looking at social norms and feeling your way through them, it's something you have to do occasionally. But if you have a choice, this is where I'm looking at. It serves a purpose. Social cohesion requires those shared performances. And yeah, it's basically how we learn these social scripts in our early years. And we figure out how to present ourselves to fit in, how to engage in small talk, how to maintain the pleasant fiction that everything is fine when it isn't. I love fine. Yes, I'm fine. It basically means screwed up, F word, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Are you still feeling fine? Yes. And it's basically how to maintain the pleasant fiction that everything's fine. And we learn what anthropologists call face work, the elaborate dance of preserving our dignity and that of others through countless micro adjustments in our behavior. And yeah, it's fine for a little while, but after a while, it's a little bit irritating. It gets jarring, depending on how much you have to do, of course. What happens when you see through these layers? What occurs when you start noticing the emptiness of conversations that never venture before the surface? When you recognize the patterns of social interaction that seem designed specifically to prevent authentic connection? Now, I laugh at myself at this, because when I wrote this, it was like, when you finally see through the illusion and you still have to do it, You're just like, okay, I see it, but it doesn't really make much difference. I still have to go and do it. So this is where retreat begins, not as an act of misanthropy or bitterness, but as a natural consequence of growing awareness. We eventually grow up, and we just think, I can't do this any longer. So, looking into it a bit further, the philosopher Martin Heidegger wrote about the concept of das Man, the they self, our tendency to lose ourselves in conformity with others. We do things because that's what one does. We hold opinions because that's what people think. We follow paths because that is what expected. We do the things we need to do. But coming from a different source, when two people meet and start to talk, a third person is created. And sometimes I don't like that third person. So the person that we are becoming because we are in each other's presence is not necessarily a comfortable one. I don't like the shallowness. I'm not comfortable in just sort of having inauthentic conversations. And yeah, I've probed around the edges. The defiance of it is to sort of knock it out of balance and go further. But authentic existence requires breaking free from this, and breaking free often means stepping back first. You can't attack, you step back, you retreat. I remember this, there was like a time when I was really busy, lunches, dinners, events, gathering, and I measured my worth through the density of my social schedule, but just because I was doing an awful lot of it didn't mean to say that I was liking the person that I was. I began to notice how many of these interactions left me feeling oddly empty. Conversations that skimmed across topics without ever diving deep. Relationships maintained out of habit rather than genuine connections. It's just like you've got nothing in common with this person apart from social events. And it's a performance, it's a subtle performance anxiety that accompanies so many social situations. And I think this is where a lot of people stutter and they become anxious because they have to be shallow. They've got to put a little mask on and say, no, I'm this person, so don't worry about it. I'm one of you. And as I grew, my awareness grew, my desire to participate really diminished, not after disdain for others, but just a hunger for something more, something deeper. And I often see other people in the same boat. So this retreat is often misunderstood by those still fully immersed in the social game, right? So there's some people that are just like there, and they love that. They just love the whole social butterfly thing. And they may see it when you retreat as antisocial, as depression, as arrogance, or as a phrase to overcome. Our culture, after all, celebrates extrovertism and connection. It views solitude with suspicion. You know, you're stepping out of line there. But there's a profound difference between isolation born out of fear and withdrawal born out of clarity. The latter isn't rejecting humanity, it's about seeking a more authentic way of being. As we peel back the layers of social conditioning, we often understand that many of our friendships were actually based on mutual utility, shared circumstances, or simple habit. There were connections formed not because of a deep resonance between souls, but because we happened to work together, live together, or had children in the same age group. There's nothing inherently wrong with such connections. They serve a purpose, but mistaking them for friendship can leave us feeling strangely hollow. The psychologist Carl Jung wrote about the process of individualization, the path to becoming one's true self. I like Carl Jung. He's a smart cookie and has some very, very useful tips. This journey necessarily involves differentiating from the collective, standing apart from the crowd. That's not easy. It means recognizing what aspects of your personality are authentic expressions of your true self and which are adaptations to social expectations. So what's real and what unreal? And it does require some contemplation of this. So this differentiation isn't easy. Humans are inherently social creatures. We fear rejection, loneliness, and judgment. The pull to conform is powerful. But for those who've glimpsed what lies beyond these social illusions, the pull towards authenticity becomes even stronger. Okay, I need to be clear about something. The retreat from superficial social connections isn't about becoming a hermit or rejecting all human contact, okay? So you can't go and live in the mountains. I mean, yeah, if you can, it's great, but it's about becoming infinitely more selective and intentional about your social engagements. It's about preferring depth over breadth, quality over quantity, authenticity over performance. As this shift occurs, you may find your social circle shrinking dramatically. Absolutely, it did. Where once you had dozens of friends, you have a handful of true companions. And I think this is a growing old trend. This happens. Basically, you have loads of friends, you have a few friends, and then you've just got your cat and your dog. But without the constant energy drain of social performance, you find more space to explore your inner landscapes. Without the noise of shallow conversations, you can hear the whispers of your own wisdom. In this retreat, you discover that you were never actually alone in a room full of people because of a deficiency in you, but because the connections themselves lacked depth. You weren't missing out on some magical feeling of belonging that everyone else was experiencing. The emptiness was inherent in the nature of those interactions. In other words, it's not you. Don't say when you walk into a room, you're just feeling the emptiness and the loneliness and it's all inside you. No, it means that you need richer social connections. It's actually the room. And if I'm saying that two people come together and create a third person, well, when a group of people come together, they also create another person. And that person isn't something you should take lightly. I think if you get a group of people discussing work things, the person that they create is, and you are part of it, doesn't necessarily show a lacking in you. And it's a beautiful paradox here. As you withdraw from superficial connections, you become more and more capable of profound connections. As you release your attachment to being liked by everyone, you create a space to be truly loved by just a few. As you stop performing your identity, you become to embody it, authenticity. So in other words, do it, because the rewards are worthwhile, and they're deeper and richer, far more than any social engagement. That's why I believe this retreat isn't something to be pathologicalized or fixed. It's a natural evolution of consciousness. It's what happens when we begin to awaken from the collective trance of social conditioning. Of course, this path isn't without challenges. Yeah, you go through some internalized nonsense as well. Our culture doesn't make it easy to opt out of the social game. There is pressure to participate, to network, to maintain a visible presence. There can be professional consequences to stepping back. People earn a living by being social. And there's a very, very, very real human need for connection that still must be addressed. But it can be done in new ways. The key is to finding balance, creating enough space for your authentic self to breathe, while maintaining meaningful connections that nourish you rather than drain you. So, to wrap up, I invite you to look at your social world. Just look at it. All right? Are your connection feeding you or simply occupying your time? So, are you engaging from habit or authenticity? And are there places where you need to retreat to in order to rediscover what truly matters for you? There's no right and wrong way of doing this. It's just it's almost like an intellectual exercise. If you can avoid certain social places, I'm sure you do anyway. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this contemplation on Beyond the Social Veil. Please join me on Weaves of Waves, weavesofwaves.life. I have some coaching and I have some mini courses coming out. Anyway, love you lots. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye now.